Okay, let's dive right into this. We're 2 years into Mayor Ken Sim's term, and wow, Vancouverites have a lot to say about the state of their city. So we're going to break it all down, the performance, the policies, and of course, the public's reaction.
And yeah, some of that reaction is, well, it's pretty blunt. I mean, this take right here from a Reddit user, it really captures this sentiment that's bubbling up online, this big question of whether a CEO-style, business-first approach is actually the right fit for City Hall.
So, okay, beyond the online chatter, how has the administration actually performed? We're going to unpack the key issues here, really look at what was promised versus what's been delivered, and, all the controversies that have popped up along the way.
To do that, we've broken it down into a kind of report card with 4 key subjects. First up, we'll tackle the city's approach to housing. Then we'll get into the mayor's public image and his leadership style. After that, it's all about the money, taxes, priorities, you know the drill. And finally, we'll look at the long-term vision for Vancouver. All right, first up, let's get into what is probably the single most critical issue for so many people in Vancouver: housing. And man, it's a complicated one, with some moves that seem to, well, contradict each other.
So, one of the first big moves from this administration was to basically hit the brakes on new supportive housing. Now, the stated goal, their official line, was to put pressure on other municipalities in the Metro Vancouver region to step up and build their fair share. The argument was, hey, Vancouver can't and shouldn't have to carry this entire burden all by itself.
But this move was definitely not without controversy. And what's really fascinating here is that some of the strongest pushback came from inside his own ABC party. Councillor Rebecca Blythe, for example, came out saying she was confused and she was worried that this pause would mean turning down provincial money that's meant to get people into housing right now. So this really kicked off a debate about strategy, the immediate impact versus those longer-term goals.
So, okay, while one housing policy is literally on pause, another one is getting pushed forward at full speed. The city is moving ahead with this really ambitious plan to basically reshape one of its most complex and vulnerable neighborhoods, the downtown east side. So let's break down the mechanics of this plan. It's basically a 4-part approach. First, they want to change the very definition of social housing to line up with provincial and federal programs, which, in theory, could unlock more funding. Second, they're looking to speed up the replacement of those old single-room occupancy buildings, the SROs. Third, they say they'll strengthen protections for tenants. And fourth, they're creating a whole new grant program to try and make these revitalization projects financially doable.
But, and this is a big but, here's the catch. When the city asked for public feedback, a report summarizing what they heard shows this deep, deep mistrust. A lot of residents, they're not seeing this as a solution at all. They're actually seeing it as a recipe for gentrification, and they're afraid that all these changes are just going to end up pushing them out of the neighborhood, not actually helping them.
All right, next up on our report card, leadership and public image. And this is where policy and personality really start to smash into each other.
Yeah, online, this narrative has really taken hold, branding Mayor Sim as the Lululemon mayor. His critics are constantly connecting him to the apparel giant and its, let's say, controversial founder, Chip Wilson. They're pointing to literally everything, from policy decisions they don't like to his fashion choices, like remember wearing joggers to a Remembrance Day ceremony? They see it all as proof of this blurred line between his civic duty and being some kind of brand ambassador.
And this creates a really fascinating contrast, right? Because while the public is critiquing this whole association, the man at the center of it all, Chip Wilson, he defines his own philosophy around this very strict, clear code of integrity. For him, it's just about doing what you say you're going to do.
Okay, let's move on to a topic that hits every single resident directly in the wallet. We're talking about the city's finances, taxes, and spending priorities under the ABC administration. So for a mayor who campaigned hard on finding efficiencies and, respecting the taxpayer, his administration has actually overseen 2 of the biggest property tax hikes in Vancouver's recent memory. We're talking a staggering 10.7% jump in 2023, and then that was followed by another 7.5% increase in 2024. Ouch.
And it wasn't just homeowners feeling that squeeze. Small business owners got a real shock when their annual license renewal fees basically doubled overnight. The city's explanation was rising administrative costs, but for a lot of entrepreneurs, it just felt like an arbitrary cash grab.
So this all leads to the big, crucial question. Are taxpayers actually getting value for their money? I mean, with costs going up so much for both residents and businesses, are people seeing a real improvement in city services? Is the city running better, or are we all just paying more for the same old thing?
And you can really feel that frustration in anecdotes like this one about dealing with bureaucracy. It's that feeling, that feeling of paying more but feeling like you're being heard less, like you're being poorly served by the very institutions your tax dollars are supposed to be funding.
Okay, finally, let's look ahead. Beyond the day-to-day controversies, what's the actual long-term vision for the city? What are the major projects and political shifts that are going to define Vancouver's next chapter? Well, looking down the road, the next few years are absolutely pivotal. Planning is moving forward on that massive multi-billion-dollar SkyTrain extension out to UBC, a project that's going to reshape the entire city for decades to come. And at the exact same time, the political scene is already heating up for the 2026 election. In a wild turn, Mayor Sim's own former campaign manager, Kareem Alam, has announced he's running for the top job. So yeah, the next election is basically just around the corner. So, there you have it. We've looked at the evidence on housing, we've heard the critiques on leadership, and we've seen the hard numbers on taxes. The administration has made its case through its actions, and the public has definitely offered both its praise and its criticism. So after seeing the whole report card, the final assessment, well, that's really up to you. What's your final grade?